Hi everyone, it's Lisa Brown with inkandinspirations.com. Thanks for tuning in for this video where I'm going to show you how to make a simple and beautiful handmade card using just cardstock, paper, ink, and stamps, and one embellishment if you choose. But I'll give you an option to use something else besides an embellishment if that's what you have on hand. So I have a piece of cardstock cut at 4 1/4 by 11. So it was an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock, and I just cut it in half lengthwise. And then I scored it at 5 1/2 inches. Okay, so I'm just going to take this and fold along that score line. I like to match my corners and then take my bone folder and give it a better crease here. Okay, so that's the base of the card. Now I have a piece of designer series paper that is cut at, let's see, 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. Another piece of the same color of the card base, and this is cut at 3 3/4 by 1 3/4. A piece of a light neutral, this is Whisper White cardstock from Stampin' Up, and it is cut at 1 1/2 by 3 1/2. And I'll have all of these measurements listed below the video here. So to start with, we're going to add a little something to our card base background. So I have a little leaf stamp here already mounted on a clear block, and I'm going to take some Poppy Parade ink, and we're going to do a background stamping, but I am going to use a little piece of scratch paper underneath it to protect the work surface, okay? And I'm just going to ink this up, okay? And then I'm just going to start stamping around the edges of the front of this card base. So you can vary the positioning of your leaves or whatever you decide to use. You can use any stamp set. Find a small image that you can use to stamp all the way around. And if it's a border image, like a line image, you could use that on all 4 sides as well. I'm just stamping randomly and trying to position the leaflets a little like the way the card's going all the way around, okay? Okay, so I like that, and let me show you. I'm going to take the piece of designer paper and I'm just going to lay that over top, and you can see how those stamped leaves just frame that out. So simple. Okay, so what I can do now is go ahead and adhere that to the front of the card base. And my color choices were taken from once I decided what designer paper I wanted to use. And so this is Poppy Parade from Stampin' Up, which is one of our current colors. And that is the color, one of the colors in this designer series paper. So that made it easy to know what to choose, okay? All right, so now I'm going to want a sentiment, but I want to add a little bit more of something to this piece of Whisper White cardstock. So I'm going to take my stamp and I'm going to clean it and get it good and clean. Then I'm going to stamp off and get the excess ink off. All right, and then I'm going to use a different color that is in the designer paper, and that is Old Olive, which is a green, good for the leaves. But I want it a little lighter, and I don't want it too bold. I don't want it to overtake the sentiment that I'm going to stamp. So I'm going to ink it up, stamp off, and then come toward the center with it, like that. Ink, stamp off, and then just go around. I'm going to leave a white space in the center so that I can stamp the sentiment. But this is just giving like a background border and adding a little something to frame out the sentiment. So you can see I'm varying the position of the leaflet. Okay, so there we have that. I can go ahead and put the Old Olive ink up, and let's put this here in the center of our page. And I already have a sentiment stamp mounted. Now, the sentiment this is a 4-line sentiment, and it's going to fit well in the middle, but I could have also chosen a long, slender lined sentiment to stamp on this, okay? So I'm going to go back to Poppy Parade, ink up my stamp, and just stamp it in the center here. And there we go. People like you make the world a better place. Sweet sentiment on a pretty card. So now I'm just going to let that dry a bit, and I'm going to put some of my adhesive on the back. Then I'm going to take this piece of Poppy Parade and center that over top. Again, I'll have the measurements below the video. And then we'll get our card base back in and just put that over top toward the bottom, where I have about a 1/2 inch showing here. I don't want to cover up too much of the designer paper. If you had a more patterned paper where it's just basic patterns like stripes or polka dots, you probably could center this. But for this one, I want those pretty flowers to show. And so there is our card. Now, what I've chosen to put on this, I had some embellishments, and I thought I'll go ahead and add those. And let me show you what that looks like. I've got some of these clear epoxy hearts, just something I found in my drawer, and I'm just going to use a couple of these on either side of the sentiment. Now, I could have used like a rhinestone or pearl or a sequin, just whatever you have. If you don't have a stone or a sticker or something to put alongside of the sentiment, and it just kind of gives it a little sparkle, okay? But this stamp set that I used had some butterflies I could have stamped on either side, a flower, okay? This little grouping of flowers, these little cross stitches. I could have used any of those to finish off that card. Okay, I hope you will give this a try. This is a basic design, but yet a beautiful card with just stamps, ink, and paper, and one embellishment. I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.